No one tells you this, but sometimes you don't miss the person. You miss the emotional drug they made you feel. You say you miss them, you replay their voice. You check their last scene. You open old chats at night like they're a museum of something sacred. Your chest feels heavy. Your mind keeps asking, why can't I just move on? But here's the uncomfortable question, do you actually miss them? Or do you miss how they made you feel about yourself? Think about it. When they texted, your mood changed. When they called, your stress dropped. When they chose you, even temporarily, you felt important, seen, wanted, and when they pulled away, your body reacted like it lost oxygen. That isn't always love, sometimes that's withdrawal. Missing someone is emotional. Emotional addiction is neurological. When you genuinely miss someone, you miss their presence, their conversations, their shared experiences. You miss who they are as a person, even if they're flawed. There's sadness, yes, but there's also clarity. You can acknowledge they weren't perfect. You can accept the relationship had limits. Emotional addiction feels different. It feels urgent, obsessive. You don't just miss them, you crave them. You don't want them because they're good for you. You want them because without them, you feel empty. That emptiness is the clue. Psychologically, this often comes from attachment wounds. If you lean anxious, your nervous system bonds fast and hard. Inconsistent affection feels intoxicating. When someone gives you warmth and then distance, your brain releases dopamine in unpredictable waves. And unpredictable rewards are the most addictive kind. It's the same mechanism that keeps people glued to slot machines. You weren't in love with stability. You were hooked on uncertainty. The push and pull created a validation loop. When they withdrew, your anxiety spiked. When they came back, your relief felt euphoric. Your body confused relief from anxiety with love. Now let's get brutally honest. If you miss someone who constantly disrespected you, ignored you, made you question your worth, or kept you in a gray zone, you don't miss them. You miss the hope of finally being chosen. And hope is addictive. You kept thinking, if I just try a little more, if I become calmer, prettier, less emotional, more understanding, they'll finally see my value. That chase created investment. And the more you invest, the harder it is to walk away. Not because they're irreplaceable, but because your ego doesn't want to admit you invested in someone who never fully showed up. That's not romance, that's cognitive dissonance. Now let's talk about gender patterns without blaming either side. Men often mistake emotional intensity for deep connection. If a woman triggers strong emotions, jealousy, excitement, fear of losing her, he may label that as love, but intensity is not intimacy. A man can be addicted to the challenge of winning someone who is emotionally unavailable. When she pulls away, his ego activates, the chase begins. Not because she's perfect, but because she's uncertain. Women, on the other hand, are often socialized to bond through emotional caretaking. If a man is distant or wounded, she may interpret his inconsistency as depth. She tells herself he just needs safety. She starts overgiving. The more she gives, the more attached she becomes. Not because he's meeting her needs, but because she's invested her identity into saving the connection. Both sides confuse activation with compatibility. Here's the difference in simple terms. Missing someone feels like grief. Emotional addiction feels like panic. Grief says, I wish it worked. Addiction says, I can't function without them. If you're constantly checking their social media, imagining them with someone else and feeling physical pain, romanticizing moments that were actually mediocre, that's not love speaking. That's your nervous system demanding a familiar stimulus. Your brain got used to the highs and lows. Silence now feels unbearable because it forces you to sit with yourself. And that's the part no one wants to admit. Sometimes you don't miss them, you miss the distraction. When they were in your life, you had a focus, a mission, someone to analyze, someone to decode. Their mixed signals gave your mind something to obsess over. Without that chaos, you're left alone with your own insecurities. and that's uncomfortable, but here's the shift. If you can separate the person from the feeling, everything changes. Ask yourself, if this person came back exactly the same communication style, same effort level, same emotional availability, would I actually be happy? Or am I in love with a fantasy version of them that only exists in my head? Most people aren't addicted to the real person. They're addicted to potential, and potential is a dangerous drug because it keeps you loyal to a future that never arrives. Real connection feels steady. It doesn't constantly threaten to disappear. It doesn't make you question your worth every week. It doesn't require you to abandon your boundaries just to keep it alive. If you have to shrink to keep someone, you're not in love, you're negotiating your self-respect. So, what do you do with this? You stop romanticizing the anxiety. You stop calling obsession passion. You stop interpreting withdrawal as mystery. You regulate your nervous system instead of chasing relief through them. You sit with the discomfort instead of texting them to escape it. You build a life where validation doesn't come from one unpredictable source. And you tell yourself the truth, I don't miss them. I miss how they made me feel temporarily important. That truth stings, but it frees you. Because once you understand it was addiction, not destiny, you stop waiting for closure from the dealer. You create your own stability, and here's the line most people avoid hearing. The person you think you can't live without is often the person who kept you emotionally unstable. Sometimes the love you're grieving is just the high you finally stopped chasing.